OMG Nation, here I am again. Another first impression ride video on the all new 2024 Street Glide by Harley Davidson. Before I get into this video, I actually had GoPro problems again, so I didn't get all of the footage. So this one's not going to be quite as long as the Road Glide first impression video. I'll put it up right there. Watch the video, and then after, I'll give you my thoughts. So let's get into it. I'm ready when you are. All right, I'm on the 2024 Street Glide. Ooh. All right, so just right off the bat, the Street Glide feels completely different from the Road Glide. So you know how when you previously we get on a Road Glide and Street Glide, they don't feel a whole lot different from each other. Right off the bat, this feels completely different. Am I in sport mode? Oh, I want to go into rain mode. Let's start this off in rain mode. All right, so I'm back down in the rain mode. The rider triangle on this one is awesome too. Perfect. Alright, so even in rain mode right there, I had some get up and go. Here we are on a 2024 Street Glide. See, what this is going to do is this is going to take the Road Glide versus Street Glide debate that's been there forever, and it's going to make it worse. And what I mean by that is they feel like two different bikes now to me. Before, I never had that feeling, but now they do. Oh my gosh. This is so nimble. All right, let's go ahead and switch modes into road mode. These clutches are so tight. They feel so good. I'm really trying not to scrape these floorboards. I'm being quiet right now because I'm just kind of blown away on the feel. I'm absolutely blown away on the feel of this Street Glide right here. Oh yeah, look at here. They've done something different to these bikes where they've made it easier to counter steer. I mean, they've done, holy smokes. They've done something different to this Street Glide. They've done something different to the Road Glide where they've made this thing is easier to ride than the previous versions. Absolutely easier to ride than the previous versions. And here's another thing too. In the older Street Glide, I felt like that the Batwing fairing felt bigger as you're sitting here. This feels smaller. So I don't know if this is a little bit smaller, but it feels smaller. I'm not feeling any wind buffering. Hold on, what's buffeting? Okay. Yeah, I don't feel anything really. I didn't really feel anything on the Road Glide either. But this is, you can absolutely crush miles on this Street Glide. Holy smokes, so comfortable. Even with the stock seat right now, this is just extremely comfortable. I mean, this is, oh my gosh, this is so crazy how different this bike feels than a regular Street Glide. I'm blown away. So the same with the Road Glide, it feels completely different. The ride, when I say completely different, the ride is a lot better. I mean, it's like night and day to the previous version. There's no way that you could ride this bike from here to 3-4 states over, from wherever you're at to a couple states over, and when you get off the bike, you're not going to feel beat up. You know how sometimes when you go on a long trip, you get off the bike, you feel a little beat up, you feel tired? I don't see that happening with this. Okay, just like the Road Glide, the Street Glide, the 2024 Street Glide, the very first thing I noticed is that it felt amazing. When I sat on the bike, the rider triangle, I noticed it right off the bat. I noticed how light the bike felt, how balanced it felt, and I continued to even gain a greater appreciation for how balanced that bike felt the longer I rode it. It does not feel... Let me put it to you this way. There has always been a debate on the Road Glide versus the Street Glide. And to me, I've always felt like that they rode the same. There was a little bit of wind difference coming off the fairing, but to me, they always felt like the same motorcycle because they are the same motorcycle from, I believe it's the neck back. Once I got on the 2024 Street Glide, it felt, I noticed two things. It felt like a completely different motorcycle, number one. Number two, it did not feel like the previous versions of every single Street Glide up to this point. The bars on the Street Glide were in a great position for me, shoulder-wise, just holding them, sitting there. And speaking of the bars, the counter steering on that bike, it's so easy to just counter steer. And literally, as you're going into a corner, so like I said, the GoPro froze on me, but one time I'm going into a corner and I start pressing on the handlebars to the left side. I'm leaning and I'm just sitting there, and as I start to come off my line, I just press back just a little bit and it picks me right back up on my line, and I follow that line all the way through the turn, and I was blown away. The thought process that you can absolutely tell that Harley Davidson said, okay, this time when we make our bike adjustment, our annual bike adjustment, we're going to come out swinging. And for all of the previous versions that everyone said, oh, they didn't change this, I didn't like this about it, they did this, I have not heard very many people on either bike say that they dislike very much stuff about it. Now look, there's some things on the Road Glide that I don't like. There's some things that on the Street Glide that I'm looking at going, I don't know. But 99.9% of the stuff on these bikes, especially the Street Glide, all the changes, gone out of the park, baby. These guys absolutely made changes that it seemed like, you know, you've heard in the past where you say, oh, Harley must have engineers up there that don't ride motorcycles. Apparently they're either all riding motorcycles now, or they fired all the people that didn't ride motorcycles and they hired a bunch of people that do. Because this is a bike for someone who is going to go and crush mile after mile after mile. You're going to ride in the rain. You're going to ride in the cold. You're going to ride in the heat. They thought of everything on this bike. All of the modes, of course, the rain mode, the road mode, and especially the sport mode. The sport mode just has get up and go. I mean, really and truly, here's the deal. If you haven't experienced those, you've got to ride a little bit in the rain mode. You've got to start the bike off. Start your ride off in the rain mode. And then, once you get comfortable with that, switch over to the road mode. And then switch over to the sport mode. And you're going to feel the difference. It's going to make sense to you that each one of those modes is going to make that bike perform differently in a good way. The stock seat on this 2024 Street Glide, you do not have to go out and now, granted, I didn't go in hundreds of miles or anything. I believe that you are not going to have to run out and change your seat out as fast as possible. This seat felt comfortable. When I am riding, it felt like I was riding on a well-cushioned seat. So I'm going to be under the impression, at least for now, that that seat is going to be a seat that people are just okay with and saying, you know what, I can pay for a seat later. You don't have to go out and buy this $600 seat right off the bat to get comfort on this 2024 Street Glide. Again, on this bike, I'm a huge fan of the cable clutch. I really like the cable clutch. I know that there are people that whenever they switched over from the hydraulic clutch to the cable clutch, they thought, oh man, it's terrible, it's this, it's that. That cable clutch is so easy to use, and to me, you're able to really feather that friction zone on a cable clutch. I feel like that the cable clutch just kind of makes it easier for you to become one with the bike. Like I said in the previous video on the Road Glide, this Street Glide, as soon as I got on this motorcycle, it felt like I had already been riding this bike for days, weeks, months. It was so comfortable for me. I'm 5'10", about 190 pounds. For me, that bike was so easy to sit on, get used to, and immediately become one with the bike and start riding and not have to worry about getting used to and learning the motorcycle. You know how sometimes you get on a bike and you're like, I've got to learn this bike for a little while. Like for instance, for me, when I rode the Pan America, because of the way the gear shifters and the brake pedal was positioned, I spent a good portion of my ride really getting used to that and figuring out where everything was at. And so it took me a while to really feel and enjoy and learn the motorcycle. With the 2024 Street Glide, I sat on it just like that. I'm in the zone and I'm riding. So I guess that you've already figured it out. I'm a huge fan of the Street Glide, the 2024 Street Glide, and I'm going to tell you guys the one thing that I believe Harley Davidson has truly accomplished. Harley Davidson in 2024 has taken the great debate of the Road Glide versus the Street Glide, and they threw a stick of dynamite in it. They absolutely, positively both feel like two completely different motorcycles when you were riding them. So now you're going to have your Road Glide guys versus your Street Glide guys, and I think this is going to be a battle for the ages. I appreciate you watching today's episode. If you have not already, please consider liking the video. Please consider subscribing. And OMG Nation, keep it old school. Thanks for watching, everyone. Stall.
So guys, if you haven't watched it before, then that won't be.
Say bye, Hardy.
Bye, Hardy.
Oh, this is recorded, by the way.
I didn't think it wasn't recorded.
Okay. Just checking.